His entire family was slaughtered by demons, leaving him with no choice but to hunt down and kill every last one of them. In this world, humanoid species such as humans, elves, and dwarves, blessed by the gods of light, have never gotten along with the demon race. The two sides have clashed for millennia, dividing the vast continent of Loinders into the east and west. However, when a moderate demon king rose to power 300 years ago, the conflict stabilized, and the humanoids grew accustomed to a fragile peace. That peace was shattered in the 5th month of the year 2826 when a new demon king took the throne and launched a full-scale assault against the humanoids. The demons fought fiercely, showing no regard for their own casualties. Several humanoid nations fell in the blink of an eye. By the 4th month of the following year, 2827, the Gargan Empire, the strongest of the humanoid nations, was destroyed. With no other options left, the remaining humanoids launched a desperate counterattack. While their main forces engaged the demon army, a suicide squad infiltrated the Demon King's castle in a final attempt to assassinate him. The mission was a deadly one. The squad lost its members one by one until only Kyle, the main protagonist, and his teammate Urza remained. Before entering the Demon King's chamber, Kyle drank a magic-boosting potion, bracing for the worst. To their surprise, the room was empty, except for a glowing magic stone at its center. As Kyle approached it, magical orbs suddenly materialized and flew toward him. He tried to deflect them with his sword, but there were too many. Just as he was about to be struck down, Urza stepped in and used her magic to shield him, sacrificing herself in the process. This shocked Kyle, making him even angrier. The Demon King then appeared. Consumed with rage, Kyle charged at him, but he was still no match, as the Demon King had an unstoppable high-level spell that obliterated everything in its path. Kyle then looked at his sword, ready to die, and channeled every ounce of his remaining magic into one final strike. His sword, sensing the moment, responded in kind, saying that if his wielder was risking his life, then he had no choice but to join him. Seeing this, the Demon King attempted to counter with his ultimate move, but Kyle's attack overpowered him, ultimately managing to kill him. After that, instead of feeling happy, Kyle felt empty inside. After all, everything he had fought to protect was already gone. His home, his family, his friends, all that remained was himself. Just then, the magic stone began to glow even brighter. Drawn to it, Kyle reached out and touched it. In an instant, he was transported back in time to before the war broke out. As he looked around his room, he could hardly believe it, thinking it must be a dream. But then, Lisa, his childhood friend, came into his room to wake him up. Seeing her, tears suddenly welled up in his eyes, and he immediately hugged her, accidentally falling on top of her in the process. Embarrassed, Lisa punched him in the stomach and told him she didn't know what that was about, but she needed time to emotionally prepare herself. Then she left the room. After she was gone, Kyle noticed the same glowing magic stone on his bed, confirming that this wasn't a dream at all. Later, Kyle came downstairs to find something to eat, only to see a table full of food prepared by Lisa. Apparently, she often came over to cook since neither Kyle nor his mother were good at it. Not having had a proper meal in so long, Kyle ended up eating everything. Just then, his friend Theron arrived and was shocked to see all the food gone. He complained that Kyle could have at least left him a bite. Feeling a bit guilty, Kyle asked him what month and year it was. Theron, confused, told him it was the 24th day of the month in the year 2823. Kyle's face turned serious. This meant he had gone back 3 years before the war broke out. Noticing Kyle's sudden change in demeanor, Theron said he'd forgive him this time since it was Kyle's birthday, then left, saying that if he kissed the ground and begged, Lisa might feed him a full meal. Afterward, Kyle went to speak with his mother, asking if there were any spells that could send someone back in time. After all, she was an archmage. Only a few knew more about magic than she did. She confirmed that such spells existed, though they were rare and largely unknown. But she explained that no one could actually use them due to the immense magic power required. Even if the greatest mage in history used all their magic, she doubted they could travel back even a single second. Kyle then asked if using a magical item as a catalyst to store the necessary power might make it possible. She admitted it could help, but even then, it would take someone over 1,000 years to store enough magic. Turning serious, Kyle asked What about using the forbidden rite, a sacrificial ritual that converts life force into magic power? His mother replied that even that wouldn't be enough, as it would require the lives of half the humanoid population on the continent. This made Kyle realize the true reason behind the Demon King's war. His mother went on to explain that, aside from all that, there was no known catalyst capable of holding such vast power. But if one did exist, it would be the legendary Divine Dragon's Heart. A long time ago, the ancient magic kingdom of Zarls had prospered for 1,000 years thanks to the Divine Dragon's Heart and its immense magic. But when its power was exhausted, the kingdom fell. Since then, the Divine Dragon had vanished, and his mother suspected it might have already fallen into demon hands. His mother then smiled, telling him this was nice. It had been ages since they last talked like this, since Kyle had been avoiding her lately. Hearing that, Kyle immediately apologized, saying it wasn't on purpose. As they talked, she suddenly got hungry and looked forward to eating the food Lieza had cooked, only to be shocked to learn that Kyle had eaten all of it. Later, as Kyle sat alone reflecting on everything that had happened that day, Lisa joined him. Seeing her, he quickly apologized for what had happened that morning, saying he only acted that way because he'd had a strange dream about her dying. Lisa then smiled, forgave him, and wished him a happy birthday. Her smile triggered a flashback. Kyle remembered the moment she had died in his arms. Their town, located near Demon territory, was the first to be attacked when the war broke out. It had been burned to the ground, turned into a hellscape. That was the day he lost Lisa. From that day on, he had sworn to avenge her no matter what. Now, seeing her alive and smiling, Kyle made up his mind. 3 years from now, this peace would end. If he did nothing, everything he loved would be lost again. This time, he was determined to change fate and save everyone. That night, he wrote down every future event he could remember in a notebook. Then he picked up his sword and went to test his current strength. Several days had passed, and Kyle continued training hard. He noticed his strength and magic had grown significantly. However, he still couldn't imagine himself winning against the Demon Lord. Nearby, Lisa and Theron watched him, wondering what had gotten into him and why he trained so hard. That's when Theron's mother, Layla, arrived and joined them. Apparently, she was also Kyle's teacher. Watching Kyle, she remarked that the only reason a man would change so drastically overnight must be because of a woman. Hearing this, Lieza suddenly became angry and confronted Kyle about it. Poor guy. Later, Kyle asked everyone who they thought had enough influence to sway the decisions of multiple nations. They told him there were only a few people with that kind of power. The hero Randolph, who defeated the Demon King 300 years ago, the highest-ranking priests of Earth Mother Karis, and the king himself. This gave Kyle an idea. Of those three, the only one he could realistically become in 2 years was a hero. But to do that, he needed 3 things. First, money. Second, connections. Being seen with the famous and influential would naturally raise his own reputation. And third, luck. He had to be in the right place at the right time. He explained all of this to Theron. Theron looked at him and said he knew that becoming a hero wasn't Kyle's real goal, just a step towards something bigger. Kyle then simply asked him to trust him, which Theron smiled and agreed. The next day, Kyle told Layla that he planned to go on a journey and asked to take Theron with him. She agreed, telling Kyle to use Theron however he wanted. This infuriated Theron, as they hadn't even asked for his opinion. Afterward, Kyle informed Lizzie, which upset her. She wanted to go with him too, but Kyle refused, saying it would be too dangerous. But Lisa protested, claiming she was strong enough to protect herself. After all, she had trained with the Oracle warriors. Knowing he couldn't convince her otherwise, Kyle kissed her and asked her to have faith and wait for him. Reluctantly, she agreed. Later, Kyle and Lisi went to the market to shop for equipment for his journey. That's when he spotted Urza, his former teammate. Without thinking, Kyle accidentally called her by her true name, a name only she and her mother knew. Urza was furious and demanded to know how he knew it. Not wanting things to escalate, Kyle quickly cast a sleep spell on her. Lieza witnessed this and was furious, demanding to know what Kyle was doing to Urza. She changed her mind and declared that she would go with him on his journey no matter what. It turned out that before Kyle returned to the past, he and Urza had been lovers, and she had shared her true name with him. Now, he didn't know how to explain that to her. When Urza woke up and asked him about it, Kyle said he would explain eventually, and suggested forming a contract to prevent him from using her true name for evil. This surprised Urza that he knew about such contracts too, as they were usually forged with spirits. However, in the name of deities, elementalers could give their true name to bind a human. Kyle then explained that the contract meant he must not reveal her name or use it with ill intent, and if he broke the contract, he would die. This calmed Urza down and she agreed. However, the contract could only be forged under a full moon and the next one was still weeks away. Hearing this, Kyle smiled and said it couldn't be helped. After all, he was leaving tomorrow, so Urza would have no choice but to come with him. The next day, after saying goodbye to his parents and teacher, Kyle and the others set off for the Sungard Mountains. Along the way, Theron couldn't stop smiling, clearly happy that a beautiful girl like Urza had joined their party. Suddenly, Kyle stopped and asked if anyone had heard of the legend of Sungard and the Magic Queen's Labyrinth. Everyone seemed skeptical, so Kyle showed them a map of the place, even detailing the treasure room. Most of them sighed, thinking he'd been scammed, except for Urza. She recognized that the map was made from magical tree bark over 1,000 years old, an ancient technique that could no longer be replicated. Realizing this, she believed the map was the real deal. Hearing this, the others quickly changed their minds and trusted Kyle. They studied the map and asked how he planned to reach the treasure room. Kyle smiled and revealed his plan. They would dig a tunnel directly into the treasure room, avoiding traps and monsters along the way. That night, after a full day of digging, Lisa prepared dinner using bear meat she had hunted herself with her bare hands. Shocking Urza, she hadn't realized Lisa was that strong. Afterward, Lisa and Urza bathed together, talking more openly. During their conversation, Lisa told Urza not to worry too much about her true name, reassuring her that Kyle would never do anything to hurt her. She even promised that if he ever did, she'd take responsibility and beat him up herself. This made Urza relax and smile, and in a moment of comfort, she accidentally exposed her cheek, revealing mark on it. Embarrassed, she quickly turned away. Meanwhile, Theron overheard their conversation and tried to sneak a peek, but was stopped by Kyle. The next day, Urza spoke with Kyle alone. She asked him why he wanted to become a hero and inquired about the rings on his hand. Kyle explained that each ring increased his body weight by 2 or 3 times. He was using them to train his physical strength. As for why he wanted to become a hero, he began to answer but stopped when he noticed that their digging had finally reached the treasure room and immediately called the others to join him. Inside, they were greeted by massive piles of gold. Theron couldn't help himself and dove into the treasure, while Kyle warned the others not to be like him, telling them not to become slaves to money. As everyone admired the gold, Kyle quietly slipped away into another chamber where he retrieved his legendary sword. Upon sensing a human, the sword immediately transformed into a girl and greeted him. As she began to introduce herself, Kyle quickly cut her off, telling her he already knew who she was. Then he proceeded to draw the sword. This left the girl confused, wondering who he really was. Curious, she used her magic to read his memories, and what she discovered was so unbelievable that she could hardly accept it. Just then, Lisa and the others arrived, looking for Kyle. Doesn't want them to know, he quickly told the girl to play along and then pretended to be surprised at finding a legendary sword. Seeing the mysterious girl, the others were immediately curious and started asking her a bunch of questions. She introduced herself as Sildonia, a magical facsimile of Queen Sildonia Zarls, who ruled during the peak of the ancient magic kingdom. She explained that she was created by the queen herself and placed here to judge whether those who reached the treasure room were worthy of its riches. If she had deemed them unworthy, she would have triggered the final trap and destroyed the entire labyrinth. However, since Kyle intrigued her, she had decided to grant her approval for now. She then pointed to a nearby apport bag and told Kyle to take it as well. The bag was magically linked to the treasure room, making it a convenient way to carry or retrieve treasure. As soon as they left the labyrinth, Kyle immediately took the others shopping for high-quality gear, buying the best equipment for everyone to prepare for the battles ahead. He also bought all the magic stones and healing potions available, shocking the shop owner with how much money he had. Later, during some alone time with Sildonia, Kyle asked her a serious question. Is it truly possible to change the future? She replied that it was, and explained that when he traveled back in time, he didn't just return to the past, he entered a new world. Time isn't a single line. It branches out like the limbs of a tree. His soul had jumped from one timeline branch to another. As proof, she pointed out that the divine dragon's heart he used as a catalyst had also been transported with him. That meant there were now 2 divine dragon's hearts in this world, but only one Kyle. Realizing this anomaly, Sildonia proposed a theory. She believed it might be the result of a fusion spell, a powerful and forbidden technique used to amplify one's magical potential by fusing souls. Normally, a person's magic power is determined at birth, based on the structure of their soul. In ancient Zarls, scholars had explored ways to strengthen the soul itself. They discovered that fusing souls could boost magical power. However, their attempts failed because they experimented on infants and used artificial souls, which led to disastrous results. Sildonia then asked Kyle what he thought happened to the version of Kyle that originally existed in this world. That question hit him hard as he realized that his soul must have fused with the Kyle of this timeline, explaining why his magical power had become so much stronger than before. Later that night, Urza couldn't stop thinking about Kyle. She found him strange. He always looked at her like he could see right through her. Yet, for some reason, that didn't bother her. As she gazed up at the moon, she suddenly realized that tonight was the full moon. Panicked, she rushed off to find Kyle. Meanwhile, Kyle had just finished his training and was completely exhausted. When Urza arrived and told him it was time to perform the contract, he seemed disinterested and told her it was fine if she insisted. That response irritated her, but she held back her anger. To Urza, this contract meant a great deal. In her culture, an application of the contract involved exchanging true names and vowing to stay together for life. It was a sacred ritual often performed during marriage ceremonies. When she first heard about it, her heart fluttered with excitement. She never imagined she'd be doing it with a man she had only known for half a month. As Urza began the ritual, Kyle suddenly remembered how he had formed this same contract with her before he returned to the past. Acting on instinct, he leaned in and kissed her. Shocked, Urza pulled back and demanded to know what he was doing. Kyle, slightly flustered, said he thought the contract was sealed with a kiss. Furious and humiliated, Urza summoned a salamander and tried to burn him alive. The next day, Lisa asked Kyle, Theron, and Urza why they all looked so tired. Kyle simply told her not to worry, as there had been an unfortunate incident last night. As for Theron, he admitted he had stayed up late trying to flirt with women and had been rejected every time. Kyle then turned to Urza and asked if, now that they had completed the application of the contract, he could assume she would continue traveling with them. Urza replied that she had no choice. After all, he still hadn't explained how or why he knew her true name, so she couldn't let him out of her sight just yet. Lisa then asked Kyle why they were heading to Archon next. Kyle made up a quick lie, saying that Sildonia had suggested they go there, claiming she had a bit of prophetic ability. As soon as they arrived in Archon, they went straight to see Princess Milena, who was currently in town. Everyone admired her, not just for her beauty, but also for her kindness to everyone she met. However, what no one else knew was that the princess was destined to die in just 2 days. Only Kyle and Sildonia were aware of this fate. According to Kyle's memories, 2 days from now, early in the morning, while traveling from Archon to Saina's village, the princess's caravan would be attacked by a hydra. The forest near Archon had always been dangerous, and Saina's village had already been attacked by a hydra just a month earlier. Milena had come to Archon after hearing about it and planned to visit the still dangerous Saina's village next, only to be killed along the way. Kyle believed her death was due to her own recklessness, but then Sildonia suggested it might have been an assassination made to look like a monster attack. Kyle found the idea plausible and suspected Prince Karenas, Milena's half-brother, as the most likely culprit. As the son of a concubine, Karenas was second in line for the throne. He stood to benefit the most from her death. Even more suspicious, he just so happened to be in Archon at this very moment. Kyle smiled to himself, thinking that no matter what the real cause of her death was, he would definitely save her, believing it would be the perfect way to begin his heroic tale. Later, Kyle tells everyone about it, that the princess is in danger according to Sildonia's prophetic vision. And then Sildonia suddenly transforms into a hawk to follow the princess's carriage. Apparently, her true form is the gemstone in the sword, and this body for her right now is an avatar made of magic power, so it can be easily modified. As she watched the carriage from above, Kyle and the other can see what she is seeing through her eye using the gemstone in the sword, impressing everyone. This made Theron jealous. He wished he had that ability, so he could spy as much as he wanted. Without thinking, he blurted out that he had actually spied on Urza and Lisa while they were bathing. However, Kyle had gotten in his way. This made both Kyle and Lisa angry, but also relieved, since it meant Urza's secret was still safe. To their shock, Kyle then casually asked, "Is the secret about her heart-shaped birthmark?" Everyone froze, wondering how he knew that. Before he could explain, the carriage suddenly came to a stop. The drivers turned on the guards, killing them, then took out a strange substance and began spreading it on the carriage. Luckily, before they could do anything more, Kyle and the others arrived, defeated them, and checked the carriage. Inside, they found the princess and her servants, unconscious but still alive. Just then, a group of monsters suddenly appeared and surrounded them, leaving them no choice but to defend the carriage. It turned out that the strange substance the drivers had spread earlier was actually beet used to lure the monsters there. Noticing that more monsters kept coming, Kyle told Theron to get the carriage moving. However, the reins had been cut and it would take time to fix them. Suddenly, the ground began to shake. Kyle immediately realized that the Hydra was coming. He told everyone to stay behind and protect the princess while he went to face it alone. The others were worried, unsure if he could defeat it by himself. But Kyle simply told them to believe in him. At first, Kyle was confident as he had defeated a three-headed Hydra before. Since a Hydra's strength is based on the number of its heads, he thought he could handle it. But to his shock, this one had 8 heads and was far stronger than he expected. He started to feel nervous, realizing this would be much harder. Fortunately, he came prepared. Kyle then used a magic stone to freeze the creature, then followed up with another stone that exploded on impact. The blast created an opening, allowing him to cut off one of the heads. However, the Hydra quickly regenerated the head, and to make matters worse, it kept unleashing poisonous breath attacks. Thankfully, Kyle was wearing dragon leather armor, which completely nullified the poison. As the battle went on, Kyle began to grow exhausted, while the Hydra showed no signs of weakening. Realizing he couldn't drag the fight out any longer, Kyle decided to go all out. He launched a direct strike at the Hydra's main body, then shoved all of his explosive stones into its wounds. The explosion managed to rip through the Hydra's core, leaving it no chance to recover and ultimately killing it. Afterward, Kyle hurried back to the others, expecting praise. Instead, they covered their noses and called him Reek due to the awful stench clinging to him. They then quickly gave the princess an antidote potion to wake her up. Meanwhile, her half-brother and the captain of the 2nd Battalion, Zentos, realized that the assassination attempt had failed and sent troops to the scene. Back at the carriage, as soon as the princess woke up, Kyle immediately explained everything to her. As Kyle explained what had happened, the princess pieced the situation together and believed him. She sincerely thanked Kyle and the others for saving her. Just then, her maid suddenly woke up and tried to protect her, but the princess gently told her to calm down. Stepping out of the carriage, the princess looked around at the corpses scattered on the ground and asked if her guards had been killed, which Kyle nodded. At that moment, Sildonia informed Kyle that a group of cavaliers was approaching. When Kyle told the princess, her expression turned serious. She urgently ordered everyone to flee immediately. Kyle was confused as they were knights from her own kingdom. Wouldn't they be coming to help her? That's when the princess revealed the shocking truth. The one who wanted her dead was none other than Zentos, the captain of the 2nd Battalion. Acting quickly, she ordered her maid to burn all the bodies in the area. She reasoned that if the corpses were scorched, the incoming troops wouldn't be able to identify them right away, buying them some time. She then told everyone to get into the carriage. They were leaving immediately. But before they departed, Saren tossed the monster-attracting bait into the flames, thinking that if they needed more time, the monsters would help delay the approaching troops. If you come this far, please consider liking and subscribing for more videos like this. Thank you.